Hamas is continuing to review the US president's plan for an end to the war in Gaza. Donald Trump says he has given Hamas 3 to 4 days to respond to his latest proposal, and he's warning the group that there will be severe consequences if it fails to accept the deal. Trump met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on Monday. They presented a 20-point proposal for a ceasefire. Right, well, to further discuss President Trump's Gaza ceasefire plan, we're joined by Mohamad Elmasry. He's here on set. He's a professor at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. And also in Tel Aviv, we have Akiva Eldar, a political analyst. Good to have the both of you here. I'll start with you, Mr. Mohamad, because we're still waiting on Hamas's response here, 3 to 4 days. What do you think their considerations will be while they study the response and why they study this plan? Because, of course, the last time this happened, they were looking at the negotiation deals and they were attacked.
Right. First of all, I think they should take the deadline seriously, even though Trump has a history of putting these deadlines in place. You can look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict and then not really adhering to them. I think Israel will take the deadline very, seriously. So they're going to have to pay attention to that. In terms of their considerations, they're between a rock and a hard place. If they accept this deal, they're basically signing off to surrender. And I don't mean surrender in terms of their movement or their political ambitions. I'm talking about the Palestinian cause. This is why Professor John Mearsheimer said yesterday in a podcast that that he can't imagine how or why Hamas would even entertain accepting this deal, because there are so many problematic elements in it. On the other hand, if they don't accept it, then they're not just inviting more genocide, but I think they're inviting an intensification. I think Israel, based on the history, would almost certainly use this as a chance to punish the population even further.
I'll get to that point that you've just mentioned there in a minute. I want to turn to Mr. Akiva Eldar. Now, how do you think Israel is going to respond, do you think, if Hamas, A, doesn't accept the deal, or if it doesn't hear from Hamas during the deadline that Trump has set?
I think that nothing will make Netanyahu happier than a big no from the Hamas. And I can write his presentation. I told you so. They are terrorists. They are not willing to accept any kind of coexistence with the state of Israel. You see, Sarah, Netanyahu and Hamas have something in common. They have a joint enemy, which is the Palestinian Authority. The game changer can be from the side of the Hamas to say, yes, we accept the deal, but we want Netanyahu to spell out the words Palestinian state, recognition of the Palestinian people for self-determination, and forget about declaring that Israel is the sole land of the Jewish people, something that Israel never asked Egypt, Jordan, or the Emirates to accept. And I am following the messages that are coming from Netanyahu and his allies from the ultra-right and even the Secretary of the Cabinet. They said that in no way Israel will accept a Palestinian state. And actually Netanyahu mentioned in his presentation at the UN that the majority of Israeli people and the Knesset, 99 members of Knesset, have rejected the idea of a two-state solution. So what are we talking about? I think that the Hamas should, if I was their advisor, I would tell them, yes, just insist that Israel will accept every possible point. And Netanyahu said that he demands, I want to remind the viewers, he demands a recognition of Israel as a Jewish state.
So that brings me to the next question to you, Mr. Akiva. Do you think that this 21-point plan is actually an Israeli one wrapped up as an American one?
Yeah, I remember the plan that President Trump submitted in 2020. That it turned out that it was made in Israel, and I will not be surprised if we will see the fingerprints of Netanyahu and Dremer on those 21 points. The fact that Netanyahu could say yes to that shows everything. I remember that after his speech, the Bar Ilan famous speech, when he was urging President Abbas to meet with him and talk about peace, and that he recognizes their aspiration for a state, that a member of the cabinet, Benny Begin, the son of Begin, said, well, I don't take it seriously because Netanyahu will never bring it to a vote in the cabinet, which he never did.
And Mr. Mohamad Elmasry, when you look at the Trump threats, he's threatened Hamas that if it doesn't accept that there's not much room for negotiating, what sort of a response do you think we would see from the US if Hamas says, no, there's some things in this plan that we absolutely don't agree on?
Well, I think he already told us, he's going to green light more attacks by Israel, the continuation of the war, and like I said, probably the intensification of the war. But again, as I said, Hamas is caught between a rock and a hard place. There are a lot of provisions here that are deeply problematic, to put it lightly. I mean, one thing that people aren't really talking about enough is this article that calls for the destruction of all of the tunnels, right? So not only do they want to set up a territory that would make Palestinians completely defenseless, but the tunnel economy is absolutely essential to Palestinians because of the blockade. Harvard professor Sarah Roy wrote all the way back, this is several years ago, but she's the top economist in the world on Gaza, and she said that by 2009, 90% of all goods, this is food, medicine, clothing, you name it, was coming in through the tunnels. And interestingly, in this 20-point plan, there's nothing about the blockade. And Israel, of course, as you all have been covering, would remain the occupying power. They would remain inside of Gaza.
Now, I wanted to speaking about remaining inside of Gaza, because there is this part of this 21-point plan is the withdrawal lines. If you just take a look there, now this is showing you the different stages of the withdrawal of the Israeli troops out. And of course, there's also this a third withdrawal of a security of a buffer zone. Israel's made this very clear from when October 7 happened that it really wants this buffer zone. I have a question for you, Mr. Akiva Eldar, because when it comes to the immediate goals, what is clear, very clear, is that they want the immediate release of the captives within 72 hours of the agreement. The rest of it is mostly what seems to be ambiguous and vague, especially when it comes to timelines like the withdrawal of Israeli troops.
Well, I think that the problem, Sarah, is not the red line or the green line or the blue line. The problem is that if I was a Palestinian, I wouldn't trust Netanyahu about any deadline, any timeline, because he will find an excuse not to meet the demands and even the 20 points that were put on the table by President Trump. He, for instance, he insists that the Palestinian Authority will reform its textbooks. And who will be the judge? Who will say that this is what the Palestinian children have to study? Now, I said on Al Jazeera at the beginning of the war that I don't believe that Hamas will hand over the last hostage before they get clear guarantees from the international community and first and foremost from the United States that the Israeli withdrawal will be in a deadline that is clear and will be full. The other thing is, if the Palestinians are not fighting just to free Gaza, while we are talking, there is an annexation, a practical annexation in the West Bank. And as Netanyahu said in his Bar Ilan speech in 2005, when he was trying to reach out to Obama and to satisfy the Democrats, he said that he wants to meet with Abbas and negotiate the two-state solution in Gaza and in the West Bank, including a solution to Jerusalem. And Hamas started this war, and the conflict is not just about Gaza. And this is what President Trump actually demanded from Israel, to agree to resume the negotiations on a two-state solution. So if Hamas will say, okay, I satisfy with the Israeli withdrawal, I will hand over all the captives, what's next? And who will take over?
And that's the question. I mean, this plan is very clear to some degree, but what it is clear is that Israel says that there will be no two-state solution. I'd like to thank both of my guests today, Akiva, Eldar and Mohamad Elmasry. Thank you for joining us.
Don't miss out the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.